everyone. Welcome to Switchblade Sisters Social Club, the true crime podcast where two friends exploit their worst fears for your entertainment.
You're welcome.
I'm Dee, a writer and podcaster.
And I'm Isla from Criminally Good Books, a true crime and crime fiction bookshop in York.
Follow us on all the socials.
Except for X, obviously.
Or have a look at our website, switchbladesisterssocialclub.com.
Check them out for all our latest episodes, events, deals, and other weird stuff.
Listeners' discretion advised. Hi!
How are you?
We just got back from bloody Scotland. It was so much fun. It was our first time to bloody Scotland. It was my first time to Stirling. Such a cute little town. We went to some really fun panels.
The panels I thought were great. Were absolutely great. Almost better than Harrogate, I think.
Well, that was the thing. A couple of people have asked if it was better than Harrogate. It's mainly just very different. Do you know what I mean? It was hard to compare because it felt very different. I don't want to live in a world where I have to pick between them.
I know, because they're both amazing. I love both of them.
So this one is a little bit different in that it's not all in one place. It's mainly in one place, the Golden Lion Hotel, but there are events at different locations, different venues around the city, but everyone's just mainly around the Golden Lion having drinky poos.
And the Albert Halls, I think that was like a massive venue. I don't think you went to anything in that one, but it was huge, absolutely great. And it was like packed. And
it's one that you don't buy like a weekend or a day pass. You buy tickets for the specific things you want to go to, which is a good or a bad thing, depending on whether you are planning on going to 100 panels or just interested in one or two things and kind of hanging, it was definitely what I felt like doing. I wanted to like soak up the vibes and talk to the people. So definitely we will definitely be going back next year, I think. All right. So this time I'm going to be presenting a case, but because I requested to, because I have had this one, like I've wanted to do it for years on this podcast. And then I started researching it. And then it just became one of those moments, unfortunately, where it became very timely. And so I asked you if I could do it today. And when I say one of those moments where it's very timely, it's because it keeps on basically a trigger warning because it is a massacre. So I wanted to do this now because of everything that's come up with this Charles Kirk assassination, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I hope we do not have to say that we think any kind of murder is wrong. But it feels like, similarly, like when I say I'm Palestinian and I have to condemn Hamas before anyone takes me seriously, I guess we do have to say it. We do not approve of the fact that this man was murdered in cold blood.
Absolutely not. Yeah, completely agree.
And also, I'm going to address the irony of this man being killed in a way that he was okay with other people dying. He literally said murders by guns are acceptable. They're an acceptable sacrifice to make in order for us to keep our right to bear arms. He's also a racist, a transphobe. He was literally in a university talking about giving a transphobic diatribe. So, I think all of those things are very important to bear in mind. And what I'm seeing a lot online is, but he's got a wife and kids. Yes, he does. And do you know who else has a family? Every single fucking person who died in Gaza. All of those people that have died in the school shootings. Like, of course he has a family and people that care about him, This is why we don't want these things happening in the future.
To anyone, yeah, to anyone.
This is why we're anti-guns. So I just really wanted to talk about this issue. I'm going to give you a warning. I'm not going to give you blue balls. It's going to be a two-parter. I'm going to talk about Port Arthur massacre today. This is an Australian mass shooting. And then the second part is going to be about the aftermath and similar cases, in particular in the UK, Dunblane, Hungerford, etc. I want to focus on what other countries have done as a result of these mass shootings, because that killing of Charles Kirk happened on a day that there was another mass shooting in another school. And I found out, I'll talk about this more probably in part 2, but there is a mass shooting. That means more than 3 people being killed in the States. How often do you think?
Oh my God, I would once a month.
Every single motherfucking day, there is a mass shooting in the States. We don't hear about them unless they're in a school, unless there's something particularly unique. I don't know. We don't hear about them here in the UK. A lot of them are dismissed as, gang related or this, that, and the other, but not all of them are. And those are just the mass shootings. So I'm going to assume that means there's multiple shootings every single day. When I was in Essence Festival, was it last year or the year before in New Orleans, which is regularly voted the number one crime city, murder capital of the US. But I was talking to a lady from Texas who was moving to a whole other area of Texas because the anxiety she had when her kids went to school every day. And it's like, of course, when you have kids, you have constant anxiety, as I'm sure you will agree. But them getting shot at school should not be one that is a constant fear. So I just thought now's the time to have a little look at this one because this case has always interested me. Do you know about it, Port Arthur?
No, I don't. I mean, it might become clear when you go through it, but I don't think I've heard of it.
Well, in part two, I'm going to talk about the aftermath, and I'm also going to talk about the links, not the links, but maybe the similarities between Dunblane. Dunblane being another horrible shooting that I will also talk about in part two. I know you're very familiar with because that happened in 1996, but it happened in Scotland, where you're from, very close to where you're from. We were at school. This happened 1 month after Dunblane, to put it in a
Oh my
context.
God. Okay, okay.
Yeah, so this is a quiet Sunday in April 1996 in Port Arthur, historic site in Tasmania. Tasmania, as most of you will know, is an island, quite a large island, but separate to mainland Australia. So it's even more remote than a lot of areas in Australia, with it being an island. I imagine all the days here are quite quiet. Port Arthur is actually a UNESCO World Heritage listed former convict settlement and open air museum located in the Tasman Peninsula of Tasmania. So it's about 90 minutes southeast of Hobart, which is Tasmania's capital. So this is a former convict settlement, and visitors can now visit. There's like over 30 buildings, ruins. You take tours, there's a scenic harbor cruise, and you learn about Australia's colonial history. I was trying to find pictures that I'm like allowed to share so you can get a feel for the place. But I mean, Tasmania looks stunning anyways.
Is that oh, that looks amazing. It's like castle-y.
So there's actually an entire mini podcast series about Port Arthur that I'm going to put in the show notes that I want to listen to. I think one of the episodes touches on this massacre, but the rest of it is just the history of Port Arthur and stuff like that. So I want to listen to that because it looks amazing and it looks stunning. If I'm ever in Tasmania, I'm totally going. But it's a nice, quiet tourist site. Lots of people go there to have walks around and go on boats and whatever, right? But this Sunday was not quiet for long. This peaceful area became the scene of one of the worst mass shootings in modern history. Within a few hours, 35 people were killed and 23 were seriously wounded in a tragedy known as the Port Arthur Massacre. But this one differs from others that we hear about constantly in the States now. It's like it feels constant, doesn't it? Because this one single event in Australia led to them completely overhauling their national gun laws so that this wouldn't happen again. So, in this episode, I'm going to go through the timeline of the horrific day. And then in part two, we're going to go through the aftermath, the legacy, similar things that have happened in other countries and other countries' responses. Like I said, Dunblane, Hungerford massacre in the 80s in the UK. And most importantly, I think at the moment, why can't this happen in the States where they use these horrific events as motivation to change things so that it won't happen again? So that would be part two.
But, I mean, I'd be petrified to have my kid in the States. Jeez,
Yeah, because Australia changed its gun laws practically overnight as a result. Why can't the
wow.
United States do something similar? So, like I said, trigger warning, this discusses mass shootings, and also some of the victims are really young, like really young.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to start. Port Arthur, like I said, is a former 19th century penal colony, which is now turned into sort of an outdoor museum with buildings you can visit and so forth. And on Sunday, 28th of April, 1996, there were hundreds of visitors roaming around the grounds. There's also a popular, like there's cafes and whatnot. And one of the most popular lunch spots there is a cafe called the Broad Arrow Cafe. The cafe actually still stands, but I don't think it's an actual cafe anymore. I think it's a memorial to what happened. So that's what we've got. So lots of people in this Broad Arrow Cafe. It's full of tourists and also retirees and locals that go there. Like, if you have kids, you might have a pass to go to this place. So it's just after 1 p.m. and a local man called Martin Bryant, who's only 28 years old, walks into the cafe carrying a large duffel bag. This bag contained an entire arsenal of weapons. And what people didn't know is that Bryant already had accumulated some victims before he even turned up here. Earlier that day, just before noon, he'd gone to a nearby guest house called Seascape with 2 semi-automatic rifles, a shotgun, and a fuck ton of ammo, and killed the 2 owners of the, basically it's a B&B, Seascape, David and Sally Martin. Then he went on to Port Arthur. The Martins were the only victims that he knew personally. And it's because he had a grudge against them. They'd had some like property disputes and some tension. But it seems to me that it's mostly in Martin Bryant's head because his father, Maurice, had been interested in buying Seascape back in the 80s. And he lost out on the sale, presumably to the couple that ended up buying it. Maurice Bryant went on to become very unhappy and took his own life. And so his son, Martin Bryant, kind of blamed the people that did manage to buy this B&B for his dad's unhappiness and suicide.
How old was he when his dad died? Sorry.
His dad took his life in 1993. So he must have been like 25-ish. So young to lose your dad, and horrible at any age to lose your dad in that way. But he's developed this fixation where he thinks that the reason his dad was so unhappy he took his own life was because of David and Sally Martin buying the Seascape B&B instead of his dad buying it. So he went to the Seascape and deliberately targeted the Martins. Then he went on to Port Arthur and the cafe by car. He had a yellow Volvo. He ate at the cafe on the outdoor deck. To me, it's just bizarre. You've just killed 2 people and you have these murderous plans, but I'm going to stop for a sandwich.
He might have been hungry. He might have wanted to suss out what he was going to do next. Who knows?
Right? So he ate on the outdoor deck and then he went back into the cafe, but now he's got a semi-automatic rifle in his hand and he opens fire on this unsuspecting crowd of people just having their lunch. Apparently, tourists nearby thought it was some kind of gas explosion or maybe fireworks, bless them. But I mean, that's really, really hopeful during the day. But I just think their minds probably couldn't comprehend, oh, it's a mass shooting near me. But then people started shouting things like, he's got a gun, he's shooting. So that kind of quickly made everyone realize, no, this is serious. We need to get the fuck away. Bryant pointed his rifle at the table beside him and fatally shot Mo Yi William Ngung. Sorry, I want to say all the victims' names. Some of them are foreign. I'm butchering them, but I'm trying really, really hard because I want to list all of the victims and they will be in the show notes. And also Su Leng Chung, who were visiting from Malaysia. Bryant then fired and shot at Mick Sargent, causing a minor injury to his scalp. But then he shot and killed Sargent's girlfriend, 21-year-old Kate Elizabeth Scott. Breaks my heart. 21. Do you remember how old you thought you were at 21? How mature an adult you thought you were at 21? But now we know like 21 is a baby. Then 28-year-old New Zealand winemaker Jason Winter had been helping at the cafe. I couldn't understand from this whether he was actually staff or whether he's like, I'm in hospitality and you're busy. Let me just, because he was there with his family. So I think he was just like stepping in and helping out. But Martin Bryant, the shooter, turned towards Jason Winter's wife, Joanne, and their 15-month-old son. So Jason Winter threw a serving tray at Bryant to distract him. Joanne Winter's father was also there, and he pushed his daughter and grandson to the floor and under the table. And I think this seems to have saved them. 44-year-old Anthony Nightingale stood up after the sound of the first shots. Why? I don't know, but I guess people just panic in this. And he yelled at Bryant, no, not here. So I don't know whether he thought, I'm going to reason with this guy or I don't know. But Brian killed Kevin Vincent Sharp at 68 years old, then shot at Walter Bennett, 66, which passed through his body and hit a man called Raymond John Sharp, Kevin Sharp's brother, killing both of them. So that's two brothers and a friend just caught, just wiped off the face of the earth in one go. Brian then moved towards Tony and Sarah Kistan and Andrew Mills. The men had stood up when the shooting started and both were fatally shot. Tony Kistan had pushed his wife towards the door and she survived. Some of the stories, I mean, just think these people are so scared, and some of them have managed to be so brave and so thoughtless of their own security for other people. Sometimes their loved ones, sometimes complete strangers.
Strangers, God. I
Yeah.
wonder what we would do in that situation. You don't know until you're in it.
I hope we never find out.
Yeah, I know.
I would love to think we would be noble and whatever and survive, noble and ingenious and manage to diffuse the situation and save loads of lives and come out alive. I think I would just literally, I think I would freeze. I think I would be you know how there's fight, flight, and freeze. I think I'd be the freeze. Bryant then moved to another table where Graham Collier, Carolyn Lawton, and her daughter, 15-year-old Sarah, were seated. Collier was shot in the jaw, Graham Collier. Sarah Lawton ran towards her mother, as you would, who had been moving between tables. Carolyn Lawton threw herself on top of her 15-year-old daughter. Bryant shot Carolyn Lawton in the back. Her eardrum was ruptured by the gun going off so close to her ear. She survived, but her 15-year-old daughter had been fatally shot in the head.
I know this is awful, but hopefully it was quick.
Sounds like a lot of these people, it was quick, but just imagine having your daughter dying in your arms. So Bryant, then still in the cafe, he fatally shoots Marvin Howard and a wife, Mary Howard. Much of this time, Bryant was blocking the exit, so people couldn't run out and escape. But then he moved towards the gift shop area. So I gather that it's like part of the same building. The cafe and the gift shop area are in the same building, just kind of separated a little bit. So he moves over to the gift shop area. As he walks over, Robert Elliott stands up again for some reason. I don't know why. And he too is shot, but he actually survives. So far, since the first shot, how much time do you think has passed?
34 seconds.
15 seconds. He'd fired 17 shots, killed 12 people, and wounded 10 people. 15 seconds. Like, when I read that, I don't know why that was something that just stuck to me. Because it's like, that is a fucking...
quick. Yeah.
It takes me 15 seconds sometimes to get up off the sofa.
It takes me longer than 15 seconds to eat. You're an athlete.
Yeah. So he enters into the gift shop and he shoots the two local women who work there. 17-year-old Nicole Burgess in the head and 26-year-old Elizabeth Howard in the arm and chest. Both die. Makes me so sad because that must have been like one, if not her first, one of the first jobs for the 17-year-old Nicole Burgess. And she must have been so excited. Oh, look at my cute job at the gift shop of this tourist resort. You know what I mean? Dennis Lever, 53, was shot in the head. Gwen Neander was also killed when trying to escape. Then Jason Winter, do you remember the winemaker?
Yeah.
He was trying to get people to escape, try to help them, and he was fatally shot. Martin Bryant fatally shot Ronald Jerry, Peter Nash, and Pauline Masters. Carolyn Nash, Peter's wife, she survived because he lay on top of her to try to hide her.
Oh, God.
Bryant then left the building, the cafe gift shop. Within 90 seconds of shooting, he'd fired 29 shots. So it's 90 seconds now since he'd started, right? 29 shots, killed 20 people in the cafe and gift shop, with 12 seriously wounded. Survivor Carolyn Lawton, do you remember the one that was shot in the back? She was trying to save her 15-year-old daughter who did not make it.
Yeah.
This is a quote from her. "It's beyond frightening. It's haunting. For every bullet that's fired, that's a life gone. Bang. When is it going to be my turn?" As Carolyn painfully put it, when you lose your child, you lose your future. So it's just, you know, the victims that were actually fatally shot, and then the victims of the people that were wounded, like, you know, the impact it's had on them. And then just anyone that was there that was lucky enough not to get injured, but still has the trauma of seeing this, being there. Oh, I just can't.
I often wonder what it's like for people that have had very close bereavement or have had very near misses, like near death experiences. You know, when like people say that they've lost a child or a relative, and you wake up in the morning and you think that they're next to you or that everything's normal, and then you suddenly get that realization, oh, my child's dead or my dad died or like something. You imagine like you're gonna like there'll be mornings, there'll be weeks that you're constantly waking up every single day, or like I don't mean weeks, I mean it'll go on forever. But when you wake up and you think it could have been me, or if I'd done something different, my daughter might not have died, or I wish I had ran towards them and all that kind
That's
of
survivor's guilt, which we
yeah.
obviously now we have a name for it. And it doesn't make it much easier knowing what it is because your loved one is still dead, but it's a very real thing. So he comes out of the cafe gift shop area, Martin Bryant, and he goes back to the cafe and he continues shooting, and it's chaos now, right? Like full on chaos. Whereas people might have like froze initially, they're now running in all directions. Like I can't even begin to imagine that fear and confusion. Some froze, others hid. Bryant then leaves the building and goes to the car park where there's a lot of people hiding behind the tourist buses. As you can imagine, there's big buses in the car park. He fired at them, killing another 4 people and wounding 11. So he killed Mervyn Howard, Mary Howard, Janet Quinn, who was a friend of the Howards, and Winifred Aplin, who was another friend in the same group. So 4 people, a husband and wife, and 2 friends, all from the same group. There was an off-duty police officer, Justin Noble, who was on holiday in Port Arthur. He recognized the sounds as gunshots immediately. He identified it as an AR-15 high-powered semi-automatic rifle. I don't know what the fuck that means, but he specifically said that it was not a gun often found amongst civilian use. Now, unsurprisingly, Justin Noble is one of the heroes of the day. He took a lot of people to cover and everything. Obviously, he's had I assume, as a police officer, some training on what to do in these kinds of situations, and he put it to use. But he recalled telling his wife at the time, "We're in deep shit." Which there's so many things about this case that are just like so Aussie, so Australian. This is another. I think this is my case crush. Her name's Lynn Beavis. She was a local nurse who had managed to get to relative safety, but then ran back into the danger zone to give people first aid while the shooter was still on the loose. And like I said, she had managed to find safety in quotation marks. No one was safe at this point, but she went back in.
You take like what's it called, like a medical pledge to like look after people no matter what, and it probably just kicked in when she's in like relative safety, and then she sees other people that are dying. Probably just felt like it was her duty to do it, but it must have been so. She's such a brave lady. Presumably, she saved people that would have
Yeah.
otherwise died.
But I think these people, they don't even stop and think. It's just their instinct. But because they're so good, their natural instinct is to do that good thing. Anyway, she's amazing. She helped the wounded by the buses and even she went back into the cafe, which must have looked like a war zone. She actually later got a bravery award and has spoken about how she has she still has trauma, basically. It was like, no shit. So then Martin Bryant leaves the car park and goes back to the site's entrance. So it's an open air museum, but there is like a toll booth that I presume you pay to go in, or you show your pass or whatever. I'll show you a picture because there's a bunch of people trying to use this one single road to escape by car, by foot, and all sorts. So let me show you the picture.
And is it blocked for them? Like, can they get out if there's a
Yeah,
barrier or
there's
something?
no barrier. I mean, presumably, if there was a barrier, they would have just fucking torn it down. There's not like, from what I can see, and this is obviously a much more recent picture, but basically, it's a road with a toll booth. So you either pull up or you walk through and you pay your ticket or you show your pass or whatever. See, this next to this white van is the toll booth. So there's basically the one main entrance and exit to this open air museum, and people are running to it, trying to get the fuck out. Among these people who were on foot was Nanette Mikach, who was fleeing with her 2 young daughters, Alana and Madeline. The gunfire was echoing behind them, and obviously the kids were terrified. Alana, who was 6 years old, was really scared, and Nanette was trying to comfort her, saying, "We're safe now, Pumpkin." And as this group, they were with some other people as well, neared that exit toll booth, a car approached. Thinking that it might be able to help them, they flagged the car down because Nanette's main concern was just get the kids out, even if she couldn't go. Like, please just take my kids and go. The vehicle was a yellow Volvo. It was Martin Bryant's car. They accidentally flagged down the shooter. Nanette innocently walked up towards it with her daughters, thinking that they were being rescued. Another member of the group, Peter Grenfell, caught a glimpse of the rifle on the front seat and started to shout at them, "It's him, run!" But it was too late. Martin
Oh,
Bryant, this is one of the
trigger.
worst parts. Yeah.
Mm.
Martin Bryant opened fire at point blank range. Nanette, Alana, and Madeline were all shot dead on the road. By this point, they'd already run approximately 600 meters from the car park. The Grenfells, the guy who saw, but unfortunately too late, that it was the shooter, they were just feet away. They managed to dive behind a tree, and so they managed to save their lives. In shock and horror, Pauline Grenfell, the wife, later reflected on the fate of the Mikach family. A mother and her two children saved us, and I was always just so sorry we couldn't save them. That's
So
awful, isn't it?
sad, isn't it? Like, I mean, she'll be thinking, what would have happened if her husband hadn't shouted, "It's him"? What would have happened if she hadn't flagged them down? It's like all these things. It's
Yeah.
tragic,
It's
tragic.
so sad. What if we hid instead of trying to run away? Blah, blah, blah. Bryant, unsurprisingly, didn't stop at this. He sped through the toll booth at the entrance, the where I showed you. Several vehicles were on the road, and there was a 1980 gold BMW 7 Series. I left the details in because I thought that car sounds fun, but it was owned by Mary Rose Nixon. Inside were Nixon, driver Russell James Pollard, and passengers Helene and Robert Graham Saltzman. Brian argued with Robert Saltzman and shot him dead. Russell James Pollard, who was driving, got out of the car and got fatally shot too. He then also killed Mary Rose Nixon and Helene Saltzman. So
Were they like parked at this point? Because if they got into an argument, how did that happen if they're both
I
in the
think that
cars?
basically the chaos of everyone trying to escape, there was just cars blocking the road. And this one seems to have been blocking the road, or one of the cars blocking the road. They all starts yelling at them and then shoots them all. At the toll booth, he had shot and killed these four people. And then he drove down the road, just firing randomly now at cars and people and stuff. He pulled up into a nearby petrol station, the Port Arthur General Store.
So he's out of the area now. He's
He's out
actually
of the UNESCO open air park thing, but he's now, you know,
out. Oh God.
I was looking for this for a visual of the Port Arthur General Store, and I could see that it's on a page called Best Service Stations near Port Arthur, Tasmania. So basically, Martin Bryant drives to this petrol station. He cuts off a car that was exiting onto the highway, and inside the car were Glenn Pears and his girlfriend Zoe Hall. He got Glenn Pears into the boot of his BMW. Oh, because he'd taken the BMW from the other group that he had killed. Martin Bryant then kills Zoe Hall, the girlfriend. So he's taken the boyfriend hostage, put him in the boot of the car, and
Okay.
killed the girlfriend. He then drives the car back to Seascape. You remember where we started the story? The
Where
B&B.
he killed the husband and wife. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Okay.
because what people don't know yet is that the husband and wife, the owners of Seascape, are there already having been murdered by Martin Bryant. So he's going back to this hotel, B&B, with a hostage in the boot of his car. Then what followed was an overnight siege with Bryant shooting at police and refusing to surrender. But then, as if things weren't absolutely bonkers enough, the next morning, so we're Monday, 29th of April now, he set fire to the guest house. He ran out, his clothes were on fire, and he's finally captured by the police. It was only then that they found the Martins. They hadn't known about the Martins,
And they'd be like burnt though. They'd be
possibly. But I mean, I'm sure they were like trying to think what's the link between Martin Bryant and this seascape B&B. They probably found out that there was history. So they were probably concerned about the Martins, the couple, you know. I'm sure they were suspecting that they were in there not well. So the police find the first two victims and then also the body of the hostage, Glenn Pierce, who had died, unfortunately.
Was he shot or was he died in a fire?
I think he was shot, but don't quote me on that, but he did not survive. So in total, Martin Bryant had killed 35 people and wounded dozens more, not to mention all of the people with psychological trauma as well. It remains the deadliest mass shooting in Australian history.
I've never heard of this one.
Yeah. So I am going to leave it at that, and we're going to do part two, where I'm going to touch on what happened afterwards, because I'm going to tell you it's good news. They literally within weeks pushed through gun reform. And Australia is a really interesting case because it's very much like the States in that you have state law and national law, federal law.
Right, okay.
So
okay.
it wasn't even just changing the laws of the country. They had to get each of the states on board with changing their individual laws. And they have less than, I don't know how many states Australia has. I'm going to guess like under 10. But let me find out. Maybe I'm going to say 8. What are you going to say?
7?
Okay, 6.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like we deserve props for not being like horrendously far off. But,
yeah,
you know, they had to convince those 6 states to change their laws, and they did it within weeks. And the prime minister at the time was quite conservative. So super interesting. But like I said, I'm going to go through all of that next time. I'm going to go through a bunch of other countries that have had mass shootings that led to almost immediate gun control.
It does remind me of, is it Raoul Moat? It reminds me of that kind of shooting because people thought that they were okay and then they realized they weren't.
You know, there have been shootings in these countries that I'm going to talk about that have had the gun reform, but the frequency has decreased, the murder rate decreased. I will go through all of that. And then I want to finish off on why the States isn't doing it, why in their defense, it is much more difficult to make these changes in the States because it's part of their constitution, which means that if anyone tries to change it, they can face legal attacks. You know what I mean? It's different. It's just set up different, but I just think it's fucking worth it. Why did these people need to have these crazy, crazy guns? So I'm going to tell you one really interesting fact. One of the most interesting facts about the gun reform in Australia is that you can still have guns, but it's just so much more restricted. And I will go through all those restrictions as well. But one of the most interesting things I thought was if you get a gun, if you meet all the criteria and you want to buy a gun, you still have to explain why you need this gun, this specific gun. And self-defense is not a legitimate answer.
So I am interested to know what reasons people would need a gun if they weren't saying, like I'm talking about like Australia, if they weren't saying self-defense. I can imagine like agriculture would be a massive part of it and like animals. But I can't imagine if you're just in your normal suburban house, under what circumstances would you require a gun?
Next week will be a very, very interesting episode, I think. And again, just why America will not learn from this. And I just wanted to say that what I've called this episode, FYI, is Port Arthur Massacre, if Australia can say never again, ...
It's like, you know, when we had, you know, with COVID, New Zealand shut down, didn't it? Remember? And like they had such like fewer instances of COVID and deaths. And they
Australia too, right? They had so much stricter. I think it's a totally different attitude with COVID, you're right. And with this, where it's like either you think, oh, well, these deaths are a worthwhile sacrifice for us to have our freedom to move or our freedom to have our guns or whatever. Whereas the other side of the coin is, no, these deaths are not an acceptable sacrifice for us. We'd rather have slight restrictions on our liberties for the better of the whole community. You know, it's just sorry if you've just not been able to do everything you want to do all the fucking time for 5 minutes just while we sort out a major issue that's killing a lot of people. Sorry if
I
that's
was
hard
quite
for you.
happy. I was quite happy during COVID just to stay in. Like I wasn't climbing the walls. I just thought this is another opportunity to do different things.
I did say at the time, COVID literally has happened at the best time for me at my age because I'm fine not going out at this age. I didn't have kids. Whereas, like, you know what? I felt so bad for like the kids that were missing whole formative years of school or the kids that went off to uni and had freshers week isolated in their dorms or elderly people, domestic abuse, parents having to homeschool while we're, I mean, I remember talking to one friend. She's like, I've got 3 kids. I now have to work from home and they have to do schooling from home. I don't have 4 laptops. Again, it's that like, what are we willing to, what is a worthy sacrifice for what we think are worthy rights that we should have? That's the crux of it. And the problem with the Charles Kirks is they're saying that the gun deaths are worth it for us to have this right of owning a gun. I say us, we're not American, but for Americans to be able to have guns, for us, it's really hard to comprehend because not only do we not care about the right to have guns, but we definitely don't think anyone should die for it.
I can't imagine Dee having, I'm going to bring up the flag thing that you brought up. I can't imagine like some of the people that are very aggressively putting those flags around like York and other places around the UK having a gun as well and taking the law into their
Did
their
you
own
see the
hands.
demos? Did
I've
you see
seen
the demo?
Yeah, I've seen the demos and actually I did switch it off because,
It
I
was
think,
so upsetting. I felt
yeah,
sick. First start, they're saying, oh, we're trying to protect our women and our children. There was one video of them all chanting to a woman, obviously on a bus stop, recording it. They were chanting at her, get your tits out for the lads. It's like, well done, really progressive. Then you've got Elon Musk chipping in, saying there's a time for violence, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, imagine those idiots hearing that and they've got a gun in their pocket. Fucking terrifying.
how easy is it to get a gun in the States?
I will talk to you about that next week.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah,
Interesting.
I'm going to move on to our Inquisition. Everyone, send us your tattoo submissions. We've had amazing ones. I'm going to make a reel
We've
of all the
got,
submissions so
yeah,
far.
we've got a few now, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got a few, but we always want more. So we've got today, because we were in Scotland, we were with Alex North, who is the writer of The Whisper Man, which we are going to be bigging up from now until long past next year because it's coming out on Netflix the second half of next year, he said. I know I've talked about it before on the podcast, but with Robert De Niro and motherfucking Michael Keaton, as well as Adam Scott and I can't remember who else he said, just like a phenomenal lineup. I was like, how are you so fucking humble and chill about this? I'd be like, you know who's in my film? Batman.
I've just started the book. I just started it, so I need to finish it before the movie. Obviously, it's not going to take me all the way until next year. So,
Yeah. Well, Sam opened up the first page and was like, oh my God, I'm already loving this book. Sam's a dad. And the first page is a letter that this dad, this character in the book, has written to his son. And it starts off with, because I was like, how do you already love it on page 1? I mean, it's amazing. And he's like, because he's talking about how bonkers it is that when you have a kid, they just let you take this baby home and you have no experience of having a baby and you're thinking this is really irresponsible of you guys letting me just take my baby home. But it was such a good book and I can't wait for the film. So we hung out with him. He's also just the sweetest man, isn't he? So that helps. So he didn't want to like do all the form filling faff, although it's super easy, guys. Go to the website, switchbladesistersocialclub.com. It's really easy. You just have to upload a picture. So I took a picture and said I would submit it on his behalf. So it's this red and black one that he's submitting.
okay.
And it takes a little while, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's basically, if you think of the red as one person and the black as another. And he says they're giving each other a hug.
Oh, is that okay?
The 2 circles at the top are their heads, and the
Yeah.
triangly bits at the
Oh my
bottom are
gosh,
their
yes.
legs.
Oh yeah, I can see it now.
I think they're fucking. I think he's got a tattoo of people fucking on his arm.
There might be, maybe. Oh my gosh, you can't unsee it.
In any case, they very much like each other.
And if you blur your eyes, like if you kind of like blur it, you can see it. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, so that's his tattoo that he submitted for the Inquisition. Thank you, Alex North slash Steve Mosby. All right, well, that was the Inquisition.
That's a really cool one. I like it. Love it.
All right, well, I'm going to go and have soup and put a whole bunch of cheese on the top of it. You?
That sounds amazing.
All
That
right.
sounds so good.
Chunky vegetable soup.
I'm gonna now find. Oh my gosh, I want to go into the cupboard to see if we've got any. It'll just have to be a tin.
But I know what you don't have, leftover grilled vegetables from the fajita meal last night that you're going to put in the soup.
No,
I
no, I
know.
don't. I just had cheese that was in the cupboard from before bloody Scotland that I took out last night and had with crackers.
Delish. I'm gonna go do that, and I'm gonna think about how awesome my friend Isla is, and how
Oh,
I can't wait to see you again. I was really sad when I left Scotland because having to say goodbye to a bunch of people that you love in one go is a lot,
mm.
And we
We
saw,
just have to make more time to see each other.
yeah. All right. Well, I love you. I love our sexy
I
listeners so
love you.
much.
I love you.
Bye.
Like this episode? Want more? Come visit me, Isla, at Crimley Good Books in the heart of York. We're an independent bookshop dedicated entirely to crime. From cosy mysteries to gritty thrillers, historical whodunits to juicy true crime. We've got signed editions, special gifts, and plenty of recommendations for your next obsession. We also host a bunch of awesome author events. Can't make it in person? Visit us online at crimleygoodbooks.co.uk.